Hey listeners, this is Peter, and welcome back to the History Shorts podcast. This humble show is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the globe, yours truly included, and all in one place. Download Podcast Republic now, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. The saga, I guess we might call it that, of UB-65 represents a historical episode that transcends just history by encompassing technological ambition, military strategy, human experience, and cultural interpretation. Commissioned in the midst of a global conflict of World War I that redefined naval warfare, the particular submarine endured repeated operational failures and tragic loss, giving credence to the perception that it was nothing less than haunted. And here is the rest of that story.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941,
it's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The German submarine UB-65, a Type UB-3 U-boat of the Kaiser Marine, occupies a singular place in the annals of naval history, and not solely for its operational record during the First World War, but for the persistent legends that surround it. Commissioned in 1917 during the height of Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare campaign, UB-65 was part of a broader strategic effort by the Imperial Navy to challenge Allied maritime dominance. Its construction reflected the technological advancements of the period, measuring about 55 meters in length with a displacement of 516 tons surfaced and 648 tons submerged. The UB-65 was equipped with 10 torpedoes, a deck gun, a diesel-electric propulsion that allowed speeds of up to 13 knots surfaced and 8 knots submerged. In other words, it was a marvel of the engineering of the time. Like other UB-3 class vessels, it was designed for both coastal and open sea operations, embodying the German Navy's attempt to extend the operational reach of its U-boat fleet. Despite its technical sophistication, UB-65's operational history was unusually plagued by incidents, lending credence to the notion that it was a vessel cursed or haunted, a characterization that would gain traction both during and after the war. The submarine's first commander, Oberlieutenant Zur See Karl Gross, reported an array of mechanical failures and structural problems that in hindsight appear consistent with both wartime operational stress and the inherent limitations of the early 20th century submarine engineering. Notably, Gross's personal log records repeated breakdowns of the periscope quite often, then intermittent engine failures, and unpredictable diving behavior, which were matters of grave concern in the volatile underwater combat environment. In other words, he viewed his own U-boat as somewhat unlucky. While such mechanical difficulties were not uncommon for submarines of the period, it's the frequency and severity aboard the UB-65 that seemed quite exceptional. If this were a car and it was the 21st century, we might say it was a lemon. The origins of the vessel's macabre reputation are closely tied to its operational history, even more so than its flawed technical ability. Following its commission in April of 1917, UB-65 undertook a series of patrols in the English Channel and North Sea, targeting Allied shipping lanes. Early missions were marked by disproportionate equipment malfunctions, which prompted repeated recalls to the shipyard for repairs. These interruptions, combined with the high casualty rates typical of U-boat service, where survival depended on both skill and fortune, contributed to the perception among crew members that the vessel they were traveling on was inherently ill-fated. Anecdotal accounts from Gross and his officers describe a series of unexplained accidents, ranging from sudden deaths of enlisted sailors under ambiguous circumstances to a recurring pattern of minor but concerning mishaps during routine operations. These narratives, recorded in post-war memoirs and compiled in naval archives, form the earliest documented threads of the UB-65 legend. Historians have debated the veracity of the more sensational claims associated with the submarine, including reports of actual apparitions, poltergeist activity, and unexplained phenomena. These accounts were largely disseminated by contemporary German naval personnel, and later popularized in post-war publications, often without corroborating evidence. According to one officer's memoir, or so the internet claims, sailors aboard UB-65 would sometimes refuse to enter certain compartments, citing an intangible sense of dread, while another recalled tools and machinery allegedly moving independently or breaking without discernible cause. Modern historians typically interpret such accounts through the lens of wartime stress, isolation, and the psychological toll of submarine service, rather than as evidence of supernatural activity. Submarine crews operated in confined, pressurized environments for extended periods, frequently under threat of depth charges, starvation, and catastrophic flooding. These conditions, combined with the cultural context of early 20th century Germany, where folklore and superstition retained very strong influence, particularly among the seafaring communities, may have amplified natural accidents into seemingly paranormal occurrences. As was the case with one crew member who went to sleep and simply never woke up. Cause of death? Natural causes, even though he was only in his 20s. UB-65's technical record further points to the challenges faced by its crew and maybe contributes to the impression that the vessel was under some form of a curse. During one patrol, Gross's log details a sudden, uncontrollable dive to over 40 meters due to a malfunctioning ballast system, nearly resulting in catastrophic flooding. On another occasion, a torpedo misfired and exploded prematurely, causing internal damage and minor injuries to several crew members. Each incident necessitated extensive repairs, delaying subsequent missions and fueling concerns over the vessel's reliability. While such incidents were consistent with the broader operational hazards of World War I submarines, UB-65's accumulation of all of these in a short time frame really distinguished it from its sister ships. Submariners of the era recognized that the margin for error underwater was extraordinarily narrow, and repeated misfortunes could easily be interpreted as a manifestation of bad luck or even supernatural interference, particularly in a service culture steeped, as I mentioned, in maritime tradition. The narrative of UB-65's supposed haunting reached its peak during its final patrol. On the morning of May 2, 1918, the submarine departed from Kiel under the command of Wilhelm Marschall, Gross's successor. Historical records indicate that UB-65 was scheduled to operate in the Atlantic, targeting Allied merchant vessels along already established shipping routes. Communications from the vessel were brief and sporadic, with the last confirmed report arriving on May 4th, after which all contacts ceased. Several weeks later, the submarine was discovered sunk near the British Isles, with all hands lost. The precise cause of the sinking, however, remains uncertain. Contemporary accounts suggest several plausible explanations, including a potential mine strike, accidental flooding, or catastrophic mechanical failure. Yet no definite evidence has ever been recovered. The absence of survivors, coupled with the vessel's already notorious reputation, reinforced the idea that the UB-65 had met a fate befitting a cursed vessel. Post-war investigation and naval analysis sought to disentangle fact from folklore. German and British naval archives contain correspondence and reports examining UB-65's operational failures, structural integrity, and crew practices. Engineers highlighted design limitations such as the vulnerability of the pressure hull to sudden stress and the unreliability of early submarine diesel engines, which were prone to overheating and sudden shutdown. These technical assessments suggest that many of the incidents labeled as supernatural could be explained by engineering deficiencies and human error. Nevertheless, the enduring legend of UB-65 persisted, amplified by anecdotal accounts from former sailors and the press. Articles published in naval magazines of the 1920s and 1930s recounted the submarine's history with a mixture of admiration and trepidation, portraying it as a vessel both capable of remarkable feats and simultaneously vulnerable to inexplicable misfortune. Hopefully, today's episode has inspired you to seek out and learn more about the subject. For answers to questions, sources for today's episode, to leave a comment, or check out upcoming guest announcements, visit www.historyshortspodcast.com or look for History Shorts Podcast on both Facebook and X. Stay curious, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.